Hey everybody, Rankil here, coming with a video really quick because in about, 2 hours they're going to be shutting down the beta servers, so I had to try and put this together. I was anticipating on putting a little bit more polished version of this out towards the end, so you're probably going to have a lot of jump cuts. It's going to have a good idea of what to start out in 2.0 all the way up to the release of the Reaper of Souls, but also what to do in leveling from 60 to 70. I'm going to show you things as crafting gear that you can do in 2.0, legacy gear that you might want to look out for, and builds for witch doctors that don't really rely on any sort of crazy gear or anything else, but will allow you to have lots of fun with the class in the 2.0 leading up to the Reaper of Souls release, and even leveling up again to 70. So I've got my Witch Doctor here, and I'm going to show you my skills and my passives to work through on a kind of bare bones basic build that I'm going to be using once the 2.0 patch goes live. First off, I'm going to be starting using Spirit Barrage with Well of Souls. To show Spirit Barrage, it's actually increased the attack speed of it, so there's a lot more Spirit Barrages that go out, combined here with the Rush of Essence passive, which got a change to it, so now you have 100 mana over 10 seconds whenever you cast a Spirit spell. Now the thing to look out for is your mana regeneration per second. So my baseline is 57, but if you continue to look at this, as I keep casting, each cast is going to give me 10 mana per second. Now it keeps stacking up until I'm casting constantly for 10 seconds, so it's going to cap out. But if you look at it, it's about stopping now at 257 to 267. Now it's a huge amount of mana regen, and eventually my mana pool just fills up and I won't run out. What this does is it gives you an ample amount of time to have a spender, which in my case is Fire Bats. And when you cast that, you're going to be regenerating your mana at a super fast rate. So going back to the secondary, you can really use this as any sort of a mana dump. So you can use Fire Bats for anything else. You could even use Zombie Charger with something like Lumbering Cold or Zombie Bears. You can use Acid Cloud with many of the runes like Acid Rain, or even Corpse Bomb, which is pretty cool for the new animation you got here. A lot of these have all gotten big increases in the damage of them, so really what you're looking for is you're going to cycle back and forth between your Spirit Barrage and then your Spender. So you're going to go through and you're going to have kind of a dump like this, and you're going to build up with your Spirit Barrage, and then you're going to do a mana dump with your secondary skill. Now, with Gruesome Feast and Rush of Essence and even Grave Injustice, with killing monsters, you're going to be getting enough mana back that you can kind of do the alternate by gaining mana with Spirit Barrage and then doing a mana dump with your secondary skill. So going back and looking at the rest of the skills, for defensive slot, I've put Spirit Walk with Honored Guest. Now the reason why I want this is because it gives you 20% of your mana back instantly. So I'm not really using this as defensive, I'm using it more on the offensive as another point of mana regeneration. Now as far as Soul Harvest, I'm using the Vengeful Spirit because I actually want to do the damage from it. Between the Grave Injustice, it's basically going to be coming back so much when I'm killing things that I'm going to be using this very often as a damage spell. Now, another one that you could possibly use if you're running into mana issues is Swallow Your Soul. They've changed it around so that you get mana back, but it increases your maximum mana by 5% per enemy that you hit, so it gives you a 25% maximum mana upgrade. Going through for the rest of these, you've got your long cooldown abilities with Mass Confusion and Paranoia, which will give 20% damage bonus to you, also to your party members. And Big Bad Voodoo Slam Dance, it's going to give you a whole bunch of damage for you and for your group. Now, if you're running around solo, you could probably even use Rain Dance, and you can even use this in group if you want to. And this pretty much means that whenever you come to a champ pack... Shut up, Templar. Whenever you get this in a group, or even solo, you're going to come up to a champ pack and use this, and the Rain Dance is going to give you more or less an infinite mana for your mana dump. Now, it's probably a little bit better to do this than Slam Dance for your own DPS, but Slam Dance would very much help out the group DPS. So use according between the two ones that you want. Now, Grave Injustice has been buffed. Originally, it was a 7-yard range baseline, but they've bumped that up to a 20-yard range baseline. Now, that's huge compared to everything else, because even if you apply it to a Thing of the Deep with an offhand, you're going to have a 40-yard range where it's going to pick up anything that's dead and reduce your cooldowns by 1 second. Since Grave Injustice is up to 20 yards minimum, and even up to 40 or beyond based off of the gear that you have, you're going to see your skills like Spirit Walk and Soul Harvest coming off a cooldown very quickly. So you can use these more or less just as offensive type spells, and they're going to be doing damage and regenerating your mana, so you can dump more Acid Clouds or whatever your spender is, and then continuing to do Spirit Barrage as well to just get mana back if you need it. Again, running Rush of Essence mainly for the Spirit Barrage, and then Gruesome Feast helps out by giving you more mana, and it also gives you mana back every time that you pick up health globes. I'm going to go through on here on Fields of Misery and just kind of kill some shit here on Torment 2. So this kind of shows, based off of the gear that I have, there's not much really, you know, the damage that I'm doing is going to go through, and this is all you're going to be doing. You're kind of going back and forth, you're doing some damage, and then you're doing your mana dump. And you're going to get enough. I mean, my character has no lifesteal here at level 70, and it's just about grouping up guys and then doing your mana dump. Get the Spirit Barrage, and then do a mana dump. So you kind of just rinse, repeat this over and over again. And to show how quick, with a Thing of the Deep having 20 yards range and the baseline for Grave Injustice, I'll show you how quick one of your long cooldowns can come back. Pretty much pull one pack, come through here, and it's already halfway done on Mass Confusion. Now, between the Reaper of Souls and going back here to Classic, I'm going to show you some things of what to do to prepare yourself. If you notice, pretty much sold off most of my gear, and I've got a few things that are saved up. I've got a whole bunch of belts here for when I want to do crafting, which I'll explain that later. So the first thing that you kind of notice is that I don't have any weapons with lifesteal. I'm just basically getting weapons that have intelligence, vitality, possibly critical hit damage is key, and then you're going to want weapons with a socket. Those are the things that you're going to want to try and find before Reaper of Souls hits, because in the 2.0 patch even, you won't be able to find those items anymore. Again, you don't need lifesteal. You can even do that in going up into the Torment difficulties without lifesteal at level 60 on the PTRs, so you don't need them now. To kind of give you a little bit of tips on things of what I'm looking for and to bringing over into the expansion, things like Thing of the Deeps here. You've really got kind of two choices that you can pick between one. You can either have one that has a socket as the property that's on it, or you can have ones that have % life. Now the difference between the two of them isn't really going to be too crazy, but this eventually, you know, you need to find yourself a Thing of the Deep if you want to get a 20-yard pickup range. So finding the best possible Thing of the Deep that you can, at least within an affordable range. I didn't spend that much on this, maybe a few million, but what you want to do is you want to get the best Thing of the Deep that you can with a high average damage roll, a good intelligence roll. Vitality would be nice if you could, and then an empty socket, or again, like I said, life %. So you might want to use this if you're going to be relying off of a Grave Injustice build like I showed earlier. A few other things that you probably would want to look out for, more or less I would say it's for legacy gear, such as Zero Dogs gear. You're not going to be able to get a Zero Dogs build with Reaper of Souls gear. So the only way that you're going to be able to do that is buying legacy gear. And what I've got here is I found 3 pieces that I'm bringing over to do a Zero Dogs build. Now, Zero Dogs gear with legacy items isn't really going to be getting me probably beyond Torment 1, but it'll still be something that I can do in Torment 1 rather efficient. So what I'm looking for is a high damage to elite Stone of Jordan, and then I'm looking for it with 8 seconds on there, but really you can have, it's a total of 34 seconds that you need between these 3 pieces. Then I have a Homunculus here with 17 seconds, and then 20 seconds for a Gargantuan really if I want to, because then that way I could do a reduced cooldown build and possibly even run a Wrathful Protector that's almost up infinitely. Then I've got my Visage here, which has a 5.5 crit with Zombie Dog cooldown. So between these 3 items I got 34 seconds so I can run a Zero Dogs build in Reaper of Souls or even in the 2.0 patch. Some other items to even look out for are just even basic Witching Hours. Look for stuff again with stats of % life, that's something that helps out in scales, or even pickup yard range, which I have a few on these. All resistance is pretty good, high intelligence with pickup yard range. Again, on this one it's a all resistance with a pickup range on it as well. Other things that I'm looking out for are kind of specific affixes that you won't find. So I have a critical hit chance on Acid Cloud on a ring, and I'm looking at this with a Skullgrass, which already has 4.5 crit, and it has attack speed with the intelligence. Now, this isn't going to be something that's necessarily a best in slot item at 70, but it's going to help me get up to 70, and if I'm using something like an Acid Cloud build, really when you're looking at it, I have 9.5% crit on Acid Cloud, and the ring that I was showing you, I actually didn't even get it for that much. It only cost me 2 million gold. So for something like this, getting a 9.5 crit out of a ring is pretty good, I would say. Now, if running 2-handers isn't really a thing for you, then probably just looking for something along the lines that's just a baseline 1-hander with intelligence, high critical hit damage. Mana regeneration is probably a good thing to have with an empty socket. But a Serpent, if you're looking for just pure damage, because you can get a Spirit Barrage damage ability on this, you can also get a damage for elites, and they always roll critical hit chance, intelligence, and they roll a very high damage on them as well. Again, looking for an empty socket, because when you get to level 70, you're upgrading your gems from Marquise, and they start going up, and they get about to, Imperials are 100 per stat, but then beyond that, it's adding 60 per stat per tier of gem. So you can get the top tier gems will be 280 extra main stat in them. So there's a few types of rings that you would want to look out for that are Stone of Jordans. There's going to be 3 affixes primarily for your skills. You're going to look for the one that I show I have equipped, which is Spirit Barrage Damage, which is going to help out with the base build that I showed. Now, these other two ones that I'm going to show you are something that is really related to, there's 6-piece sets that you can get in the expansion. One of them is going to be the Wall of Zombies set, which makes your Wall of Zombies spew out, and in order to make it a 0-wall build, you need to have 2 legacy items that have -3 seconds on them. One of those items here is going to be, I'm going to be using a Stone of Jordan with 3 seconds. You can get the same on a Skull Grasp or even on a Mara's Amulet. The other piece that I'm going to be looking for is on a Serpent, which is the 3 seconds here. Again, the highest that you can get is 3 seconds, and then you're looking for high average damage, high intelligence, high damage against elites. Another item you can be looking for is Witch Doctor's increased damage to Locust Swarm. For this, there's the Witch Doctor dot set. What this does is it takes the remainder of your dot damage and then applies it as direct damage with your Soul Harvest whenever you use it. So if you're having 11% more damage on this for your Locust Swarm, it's going to do 11% more damage when you do that Soul Harvest. Now, going back to my Witch Doctor, and the reason why I have no pieces of gear that's really on him is because I have these items and I plan on making 6 property items for them. Now, the reason why my Witch Doctor is naked is because I'm actually going to be crafting 6 property items and Archon pieces in order to give himself a baseline of gear for the 2.0. It's not going to be any sort of what I would call a best-in-slot gear. I'm not going to be farming on the highest torment levels, but at least I can sell my current gear set and get something that's going to be okay enough for me to go through and play at level 60. If you notice here, I've got an entire column full of Tomes of Secrets. Now, these things are about 60 a piece, and I have 10,000 of them, which I probably didn't even need this many, to be honest. But these are all going to upgrade themselves to demonic essences. You're going to need these to craft things later on. Same thing here for wishful essences. Now, you'd sit there thinking, why do I need hell materials? And if you look even on a mule that I've got, I have more wishful essences and I have encrusted hoofs. Now, these are the cheapest ones that you can have. Comparing an encrusted hoof, which is 421, to an iridescent tear, which is 723. Now the thing is, all of these low-level crafting materials are actually going to get upgraded to the Inferno crafting materials. So what you need to do is go to the auction house and do a search. Look for your crafting items, crafting normal, subtle essences, and just look for example 1. So you have 1,000 for a normal essence, you have 903 for a nightmare essence, you have 734 for a hell essence, and then you have 1,400 for an inferno essence. So really what you should do now is if you have any inferno essences, sell all your inferno essences, and then buy the cheapest one that you can find relative to any of the other difficulties. For demonic essences, it's not only Tomes of Secrets that are going to be upgrading to them, you can also have Tomes of Jewel Crafting, Tomes of Blacksmithing, Pages of Jewel Crafting, and Pages of Blacksmithing. The thing why you need to look for this maybe for other ones is in Hardcore Auction House, because Tomes of Secrets are actually still very expensive in the Hardcore Auction House. They're at about 11,000 a piece. Now, if you're looking for anything else, you could go down to Tomes of Jewel Crafting, which are only 1,700 a piece. Tomes of Blacksmithing are 1,000 a piece. Pages of Jewel Crafting are 1,300 a piece, and Pages of Blacksmithing are 983. So any of these are going to actually upgrade as well to Demonic Essences, and they're a heck of a lot cheaper than Tomes of Secrets. But one of the other things that you should do for crafting is go in and fill up an entire character, if not as many characters as you possibly can, with white belts. Start a game, and so what you want to do is keep recreating a game until you find a white belt in this slot. You can find them here at the Miner Merchant or Argus the Collector. Again, find on there a white belt, and then buy as many as you can on this character and as many other characters that you got and all your mules, because buying these before the 2.0 patch will be allowed to be salvaged. If not, you can really probably go through and do something like Halls of Agony or Arrakis Crossing. Those are actually areas that have a lot of weapon racks or armor racks to go through and get white items, and then you can use those in order to disenchant them and salvage them into the materials that you need for crafting. Now, there's a few other things that you should probably be looking out for. Hellfire Rings. You should not be crafting Hellfire Rings before 2.0. Craft an intelligence-based Hellfire Ring after the 2.0 patch, because you can take those Hellfire Rings once the Reaper of Souls kicks over, and you can actually enchant those into better things. So even if you get 3 out of the 4 properties that are good on them, you can still enchant them. Same goes for any of the gear that you craft in 2.0 and later. That's why I was saying, go through and make 6 property items and make Archon items to make those, and then you can enchant them once the expansion comes and rolls around, which might help you into leveling up as you're getting up to 70. One last thing is probably the biggest thing on a lot of people's minds is gold. What should you do with gold? Now, I'm coming over with about 800 million gold. I don't even really think that I need that much gold. To be honest, I probably am overthinking of it anything, and I might actually even sell some of that gold because gold is going for a very good price on the auction house right now. The top tier gems are about 10 million gold a piece to make. The difference is that you got about 11 slots that you can put into, so it's about 110 million gold that you would need to make a bunch of top tier gems. Now, thinking of this though, is I've actually been in the beta and I've made about 150 million gold, I would say. So more or less, if you're going through and you just don't really want the top tier gems, it's not that big of a difference between, say, an emerald that's a royal flawless as opposed to a royal. You're only getting 5% more critical hit damage, and really it's not that big of a deal. So what you can do is you can save yourself and just don't try and make the top tier gems, because everything that's going to be dropping is marquee gems and above. I hope what I've said here, even though it's a little bit rushed, might have helped out some of you guys into getting your gear for the next coming up for the 2.0 patch, or even for into the Reaper of Souls. If you do have any question, please, please, please put them in the comments below, because that way I can answer them to the best that I can of anything that I have left out. Hopefully you guys are just as excited as I am about the release of the 2.0 patch, even though I'm going to be a little bit upset that the beta is going to be going down and I'm going to have to go back to playing my level 60 character. So till then, keep killing stuff and having fun, everybody, and we'll see you guys in 2.0 and Reaper of Souls.